And there were debates at the time about how much Leninism do we want to let into DSA. And these people they eroded any resistance and any core of anti-communism that remained within DSA. Anti-communism became forbidden, right? This is a big evil thing to be an anti-communist. And you can't do this. You can't hold this view without running all the old people who experienced the 20th century out of the organization. And I think that had to have been part of the calculus, that they didn't want any internal resistance. And so there were instances where I think the efforts were made to silence people.
So there you're listening to Jake Altman. He's a former member of the Democratic Socialists of America, the people who are currently taking over the Democrat Party. You do see some Democrats there actually trying to push back and say, no, this isn't what the Democratic Party is going to be. But I don't know. Maybe it's too late for him. Let's get to our guest. Deroy Murdock joins us, nationally syndicated columnist, Project 21 ambassador, Fox News contributor, and your latest piece at the Daily Signal, DSA, Our Goal is Communism. You listen to that man right there, and he says there's no longer room in the DSA to be anti-communism.
Yeah, it sure looks that way, and he's going to talk to you. And, this is disturbing stuff. Yeah, this is a quote I have at the top of this piece in the Daily Signal. It's from David Jenkins. He's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America's National Political Committee, which I guess you might say is kind of like their Politburo. This is the folks who make the big decisions as to where they go and what their political activities will be. And he's very direct in a statement in 2023. He said, quote, "Our goal is communism," unquote. It doesn't get much more direct than that. And you've got other members of this National Political Committee, again, the top leadership of the DSA, and they're very, I give them credit for this, they're very open and direct about what they want. They're not hiding or dancing from it, dancing around and hiding from their statements. We've got this woman named Frances Gill. She's part of the National Political Committee. She says, quote, "We have a unique responsibility to act from the heart of empire, the belly of the beast. The most important thing that we can do is take the empire down from within." Hazel Williams, she's also on the DSA's National Political Committee, quote, "U.S. imperialism is not a thing that can be reformed away. It has to be overthrown through revolutionary struggle," unquote. So they're very direct about this. And then look at their platform called Workers Deserve More. And you go through this thing, and it's just about 32-hour work week with full pay and benefits and a living wage, guaranteed universal health care at no cost to individuals. Housing is a human right. There should be publicly owned social housing. Demilitarize the police departments, disempower police unions, and redirect funding to public services as steps toward fully abolishing the police and prison system. And on it goes. I mean, every crazy left-wing idea you can think of, and some of you probably not thought of. There's some new ideas here I'd never seen before. Make sure every green card holder gets the vote, for example. That's kind of new. Crazy left-wing stuff, and it's a lot of this stuff is, far left, and some of this stuff goes from far left into what I would describe as just full-blown communism. So this is essentially, the DSA is essentially the Communist Party of the USA with a new banner or new sign up front. Other than that, there's not much difference, really.
I think that it's important, especially for Republicans who are historically looking at losing the majority in the midterms coming up. But I think what the Democrats are coalescing around gives the Republicans, along with redistricting, an opportunity not to have a catastrophic midterm blue wave. But we do, as a country, as a political party on the right, we do need to determine why this would look appetizing to part of the electorate. What is it that this DSA, the socialists now running the Democrat Party, what is it that they're offering that solves a problem for people who vote? And what do we have to offer instead? And I'm wondering how you would answer that question, Deroy.
Well, that's a very good question. Look, I think that the DSA appeals to a couple things. One is a very strong, very powerful human emotion, which is envy. And there are a lot of people who look at somebody else's success. They don't say, wow, that's great, congratulations, great work, keep it up. They look at someone who succeeded in business or medicine or whatever. Why are you making money? Why are you living in that big house? Why are you driving that nice car? Who did you rob or steal from to get that money? If you're doing that well, obviously you must have taken it from somebody. There's a lot of that sentiment, unfortunately, part of human nature, and they appeal to that. And another big part of it is free stuff, free health care, free education, You get to work 32 hours a week, but get paid for 40. Free family leave. Apparently, Mandami, who's another DSA guy, my mayor in New York City, if your pet is sick, if your goldfish isn't doing well, you're going to be able to take the day off. That's the next thing they're pushing now. And basically a lot of reward for not much effort, and people like that. They like the free stuff, and the GOP usually says, all right, we'll give you the opportunity to work hard for what you want to do to make your life better and life better for your family, friends, and loved ones. Or you can sit back and relax, and we're just going to deliver to you. And a lot of people think, you know what, I like the sit back and relax model. And a lot of that is what the DSA and the super far left and socialists and communists are offering. And a lot of people like that. So what the GOP has got to do is talk about, among other things, what they have done already with the One Big Beautiful Bill, which was passed and signed by the Republican Congress, signed by President Trump. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security benefits for a lot of seniors. The fact that even though the economy is not quite where we want it, we do see an increase in manufacturing. There's some talk about the fourth quarter growth being up at 3 or 4%, according to the Atlanta Federal Reserve. So there are a lot of positives. I think we all want to see the Iran war wrapped up and have energy prices come back down to earth. That would be a big help. Yes. But there are a lot of positives that the GOP ought to talk about, things that they do want to do in terms of school choice, in terms of a greater economic growth, tax reduction, deregulation. They ought to be talking about those sorts of things, and they ought to get out there and do it. I think we'd be hearing a lot more about it if they weren't the House weren't on vacation and the Senate on a 5-week vacation. I've complained about that and the fact that there's a lot of work that they need to be doing and they're not because they're on extended breaks. That sure doesn't help. But there are a lot of positives that GOP ought to be talking about, and then again pointing out the negatives of a Democrat Party. This is not the JFK Democrat Party or the Bill Clinton Democrat Party. It's barely even the Obama Democrat Party. This is a party that looks more like the party of Karl Marx and V.I. Lenin and Joseph Stalin than it looks anything like the party of JFK or FDR or Harry Truman.
Oh, Deroy Murdock speaking with us right now. I think that the United States of America, because of the system that we're built on and that we've thrived on, that these young people have lived in such opulence as Americans, winning the genetic lottery to be able to be born into this country. They feel and look around and see how much wealth exists here that they just think it kind of is. It didn't get created. It's not something that is worked on and manufactured. They just think it is. So there's enough to go around for everyone. This is something that will become very perilous to a generation who hasn't seen it in practice. I'm 42 myself, and I've heard a lot about the Soviet Union and different areas where this was really tried to be implemented. But I don't think young people, they've only learned about it. They've never seen it with their own eyes. I think that makes a big difference.
Well, if you're lucky, they've learned about it. I mean, a lot of kids don't learn much of anything.
That's true.
We see in New York City right now, in New York City, we're spending $40,000 per pupil. And at the same time, the number of kids who can read at grade level in I think every category, every third grade, fourth grade, eighth grade, et cetera, they're all below 50%. They're all in the 40s. So in other words, more than 50%, 52, 53, 54% of kids are not reading at grade level. So we're not teaching them how to read. So why would he be teaching them about the history of communism and how communism subjugated Eastern Europe for the better part of 75 years, in the Soviet Union, the better part of about 45 years after World War II, and how people suffered from there, how Mao Zedong in China killed 60 million people. Joseph Stalin killed something in the range of about 50 million people. I mean, compared to those guys, if genocide were Olympic sport, Mao would get the gold, Stalin would get the silver, and Adolf Hitler would just get the bronze. And we don't talk about that very much. And that this isn't just a dumb set of ideas that lead people to be poor and suffer. This is a set of ideas that have led people to be killed by a score of about 100 million as you go around the world when communism ran rampant through the 20th century. But I think a lot of young people don't know about this. We barely teach American history. We don't teach much Soviet or Chinese history or anything like that. So when people say, hey, sit back and relax, we're going to give you free stuff and we're going to tell you how to live your lives, think, okay, that sounds comfortable. That sounds better than what I got going now. Not knowing that these are kind of ideas that lead at best to poverty, at worst to genocide.
Deroy Murdock speaking with us right now, nationally syndicated columnist. His latest piece, DSA, Our Goal is Communism, dailysignal.com. Do you believe that the Republican Party, the people who help work with the grassroots and those, trying to make sure that we retain the Senate, retain the House, do you think that the people who have the power to influence these types of elections with money and donations, do they understand how close we are to these socialists getting real access to power?
I think increasingly so. I did a piece about Hassan Piker for the American Spectator last week, and a number of people said, look, we knew this guy was bad, but until they read these quotes that he had about a lot of violent stuff, super pro-communist things, saying positive things about the Soviet Union, positive comments about Mao Zedong again, who killed 60 million of his own people. A lot of them said, gee, we knew it was bad. We didn't know it was that bad. So it's very important for people to get fully educated on how terrible these ideas are, how awful this agenda is that these people are pushing, and that this isn't just people, as I've said, liberals in a big hurry. These are radicals. These are hardcore Marxists. These are people who look at someone like Vladimir Ilyich Lenin and think, you know what, he had some good ideas. Let's try that here. So this isn't just, taxes go up a little bit, we're going to have a little more regulation. These are people who want to take this country, turn it upside down. They say they want to abolish the Constitution and start from scratch. And they're not going to be starting from scratch while reading The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. They'll be starting from scratch while reading the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. So this is very dangerous stuff. I'm going to guess this is probably the biggest threat from the communist left that we've had in this country since the 1950s and since the efforts by the Soviet Union to engage in sabotage and subterfuge against the U.S. back in the 50s, 60s, when they had people running around this country trying to infiltrate all of our institutions. The infiltration's done. They're in here. They've arrived, and these people have to be fought very hard from the top of this country to the bottom, and put these people back into the faculty lounges or fully out of power from whatever positions they hold. There's a dangerous and potentially deadly ideology, and yes, we have to be eternally vigilant and immediately vigilant against the DSA and the kind of ideas that it's spreading, which are dangerous, if not deadly, for this country.
Well, I encourage people to read your piece in the Daily Signal and for you to continue to use that bullhorn that you have to draw attention to it, because it does need to be talked about. We do need to expose it, and they need to answer for it. Hopefully, in come November, our country won't have to learn it the hard way.